Following that, we'll be led in prayer this evening by Monsignor Mark Schwarzkopf of Our Lady of Greenwood. This is probably his last time with us. He'll be retiring here, I think he told me, in 150 days. So we welcome him this evening.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear God, you are our Father. You give us life. You provide for us. You protect us. You inspire us. You forgive us. You gather us together. Continue to bless this community. Continue to bless it with good leadership. We can ask that you continue to bless it with good cooperation among the members of this community's families. In particular, during this time of hard weather, we thank you for the dedication of the workers who provide for our safety, our security on our streets, working on the utilities, for all those who toil outside, and for those who are very frail. Thank you for your protection, your guidance, your inspiration in your life. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. We'd like to invite the Cub Scout troops to come up and introduce themselves, give us your name and pack number. And boys, if you want to come on up, right up here. Give us your name and your pack number, and if you're working on a badge, what that is. Go ahead, you first.
My name is Seth Kennedy. Pack number is 265.
All right, thank you. Step around over here.
My name is James Weiner. I am from Pack 265, and we are working on the Arrow Light.
I am Skylar Bowen from Pack 265 and am currently working on Arrow Light. I am Jacob from Pack 265, Jacob Carpenter. I'm Aiden Schneider. I'm from Pack 265 and I'm working on my Arrow Light. I am Thomas Smith and I am from Pack 265.
Always pleased to have Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts with us, so good to have them with us this evening. We appreciate you leading us in the pledge. At this time, roll call.
Armstrong.
Here.
Bates.
Present.
Campbell.
Here.
Dine.
Here.
Foster.
Here.
Gibson. Here. Hill.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
And Lexi.
Here. We have a quorum. All of you should have received copies of the minutes from our last regular meeting on January the 21st. Do I have a motion?
I so moved.
Motion, Mr. Bates, second. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing a roll call on the minutes.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
And Lexi.
Aye.
Minutes are approved and voted 9-0. At this time, we set aside time at our council meetings to invite members of the audience to wish to address the council to do so. At this time, if you would like to address the council concerning something that is on tonight's agenda, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Eric Prime, Bay Bailey Law Firm, on behalf of the petitioners on ordinance number 1903, a rezoning petition. just have a couple of points to raise this evening. Thanks for the tech assistance. Okay. We're here this evening for the rezoning petition, and I wanted to point out a couple of things. I'm not going to go through this whole presentation, but I think it's important for the council to know that Arbor, despite some past differences with the city, has been working diligently in the recent term to help not only on this project, but others across the city. Over on Cutzinger Greenwood, the city has approached Arbor for assistance in extending their utilities earlier than their business plan or needs would have required in order to serve the new Cutzinger fire station. And Arbor is willing to extend these utilities several years in advance of their own needs in order to accommodate the city. This particular development, Ridgetop on Combs Road, will result in improvements totaling approximately $300,000 in road improvements on Combs Road, and the developer will be extending a 15-inch sewer interceptor from Graham Road to Combs Road, which will then allow for the future annexation and development of the area east of Combs. The city's comprehensive plan calls for that area to be annexed and to be developed as residential, and the provision of that sewer line all the way from Graham to Combs will then facilitate future development on the east side of Combs Road. We're working with the city in other ways and working with the neighbors in other ways. The neighbors to this project are all on board with the commitments that are in front of you this evening. Those commitments were the result of hours of good faith negotiations between Arbor and the adjacent landowners. They are all on board with those commitments, and I don't believe you will be hearing any remonstrance this evening from anybody that's adjacent to this project. Finally, the additional commitments were added at the request of the city, and those commitments are threefold. One, we lowered the number of homes in the original project, as you can see, from 120 to 112. And we are agreeing and committing to cap the development at no more than 112 building lots. In addition, we are committing that this ground will be used solely for single-family detached homes, and we are committing to adhere to the city's architectural control ordinance. I believe that's all I have for you this evening, but I wanted to make sure that you understood where Arbor was coming from, and you understood the breadth and depth of the commitments that Arbor has gone through in order to make this an acceptable rezoning project. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prime. Anyone else from the audience wishing to address the council at this time? Seeing none. Reports, Corporation Council.
You all should receive the item semi-monthly and also that item annual report, the litigation report, and our Title VI annual report of goals and accomplishments. And if you have any questions, please contact me about those.
All right, any questions? All right, seeing anything from the Controller's Office at this time? Any other committee or board reports? Seeing none, then ordinances and resolutions. Notice of intent to consider. Ordinance number 1903.
Ordinance to amend the official zoning map adopted by reference and zoning ordinance number 82-1 as amended. Proposed rezoning of approximately 31.54 acres located south of County Line Road on the west side of Combs Road, sponsored by Dime.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dine. Mr. Peoples.
Thank you. My name is Bill Peoples, a program planner for the city. This zone map amendment pending before you this evening would rezone about 31.5 acres of property to the R3 zoning classification for a single-family residential subdivision. The general layout of it is before you on the This would, the petitioner has agreed to a commitment to limit the lot count to about 112 units, and this would result ultimately in a density of about, gross density of about 3.5 units, 3.55 units an acre. Plan Commission did hear this request at its January 14, 2019 hearing. There was a sizable remonstrance to the petition, and the petitioner did agree to 3 commitments requested by a subset of those remonstrators. The Plan Commission forwarded this request to you with a favorable recommendation by a vote of 6 to 2, and that recommendation is subject to the remonstrators' commitments of the forwarding to you. The petitioner has subsequently agreed to 3 additional commitments requested by the council. All 6 commitments are specified in the ordinance that was forwarded to you by the city attorney. That's all I really have. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Peoples? We do need to amend ordinance 1903 to reflect the commitments. I believe all of you should have received a copy of the amended version with the amendments redlined. So I would entertain a motion to amend ordinance 1903 as presented.
I'll make that motion. The exhibit that I'm looking at, which I believe is part of the same amendment, has 120 lots.
I don't have a copy with me, but I thought we emailed a copy of the amended
But
ordinance.
I believe Mr. Lexi's right, I think that was
Oh,
inserted,
and-
I think that the layout still shows.
The layout still shows 120,
in
but
there.
I think that their commitment says 112, and that's what they've committed to, so.
That's the layout on your monitor shows 112 as a monitor.
Yeah,
So the original was 120.
Was this exhibit referred to within this document?
No, the commitments actually say.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah,
but
that it'll
there's
be
not-
112, and it says as shown, which basically is a legal description showing the outline of the property, is really what that is showing, where Combs Road is in the acreage.
On the red line copy, it shows 112.
Right, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll make the motion if we agree to amend this picture to show the 112 lots.
Okay, we'll add that. He has a copy here. We will
That's my amendment.
We will also amend, including the amendment, is to include a new, what do you call those?
It
Depiction.
shows the depiction of
A
the.
depiction of the 112 lots. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion on the motion to amend ordinance 1903? Seeing none, roll call on the amendment to ordinance 1903.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
And Lexi.
Aye.
Ordinance 1903 is amended on a vote of 9 to 0. Any discussion on ordinance 1903 as amended? We'll say to our Boy Scouts, normally ordinances come before us, take 3 readings, or there are 3 nights. However, ones under notice of intent to consider that come to us from the Plan Commission, it's 1 night, 1 vote. Normally, it would be 3 nights, 2 votes, but these ordinances that come from the Plan Commission are 1 night, 1 vote. So, any discussion on the council? Seeing none, roll call. Ordinance 1903.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Foster,
Nay.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Nay.
Lexi.
Nay.
And Armstrong.
Nay.
Ordinance 1903 fails to pass on a vote of 4 to 5. There are no first reading, second reading. Ordinance 1901.
An ordinance to reestablish a Greenwood Cumulative Capital Development Fund pursuant to Indiana Code Section 36.915.5, sponsored by Bates and Gibson.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Bates, second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion, ordinance 1901? we're scheduled for a public hearing. So at this time, we'll open it up for a public hearing. If you would like to speak for or against ordinance 1901, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any discussion on the council?
All this is doing is keeping the tax at its current level, not increasing. Not increasing or decreasing.
Right. It's not a new tax, it's an existing tax that we're keeping at the same rate it has always been.
So if we don't do it, we actually, it continues to decrease.
Yes. All right, any further discussion? Ordinance 1901? Seeing none, roll call. Ordinance 1901, second reading.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
And Bates.
Aye.
Ordinance 1901 passes second reading 9-0. Again, for our Cub Scouts, I think I called you Boy Scouts earlier, but for our Cub Scouts, notice on the agenda there's a first reading. There were none tonight for first reading. Then there was one under second reading. That one's already been here twice before, and so tonight it passed second reading, so it will take effect immediately. And now under new business, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions, I believe we have a walk-on. We have a motion to walk on ordinance 1901.
So,
Motion, Mr. Bates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion? All in favor of walking on ordinance 1901? Roll call.
You know what everybody's voting.
Roll call on the walk-on of ordinance 1901.
Well, I didn't know we were having a walk-on. Dine.
aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye. Ordinance 1901 is walked on. We'll go to 9-0. Then introduction, resolution 1901.
A resolution to rescind resolution number 1827 and to request the state legislature for a local option 1% food and beverage tax in the city of Greenwood. And to explain why this is necessary, you know the originally passed resolution number 1827, and there is actually pending a House Bill 42 that was in a committee. It's my understanding it passed out of the Senate today and will go to the House tomorrow. But there was a proposed amendment to the House bill to give the city of Greenwood the authority to adopt a food and beverage tax of 1% if they then want to do an ordinance to do so, but limited the purposes. Did not include police and fire or public safety, did include supporting economic development projects and parks and recreation, which you originally wanted to do. So it was thought that it was best to rescind that original request and forward a revised request basically to the state, sort of in accordance with the recommendation on that amendment out of the committee to request that we get the food and beverage, and then it would be, the proceeds would be used for parks and recreation and to support economic development. And that's what this resolution would do. Obviously, it's the same as the other one. It doesn't adopt the tax. It's just adopting a request to send up to the state.
Yeah, this is, we already passed it once, but this just changes the purpose. And I do know from personal experience, because I've heard a few comments about how that people are going to start buying their food in Indianapolis instead of Greenwood if we pass this. I know from personal experience, if you go to the Arby's up on Madison Avenue in Indianapolis and buy 2 fish sandwiches for $5, it costs $5.45. But if you go down to any of the Arby's in Greenwood, it only costs $5.40. So it's 5 cents cheaper to buy in Greenwood, at least for the present. And this does not mean we will, for our audience, does not mean that we will actually pass this tax. This is simply asking the state to allow us that option if we so desire. So, any further discussion? It's important that we pass this through tonight because this is a bill that is currently before the House and will be heard tomorrow. So I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules through first reading.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson,
Second.
second by Mr. Dine. Any discussion on suspension? Seeing none, roll call on suspension, ordinance or resolution 1901.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
And Dunn.
Aye.
Resolution 1901 is rules suspended through first reading, voted 9-0. Now, I mentioned earlier, you Cub Scouts are here on a good night. There's a lot of things. Normally, everything gets 3 nights, and normally things are on the agenda before we get here. This one was unique in that it just came up today. It is in the process of going through the state legislature at the present, and so what normally takes 3 readings, or 3 nights and 2 votes, tonight we did suspend the rules through first reading, so in a moment I will ask for a motion for first reading and then a vote on first reading, and then we'll ask for suspension of the rules through second reading. The way the Indiana state law is written, suspension on the first suspension can pass on a vote of 6-3, but second suspension, to suspend it through second reading and do that all in one night, requires a unanimous vote. So it could be 8 in favor of suspension and 1 opposed, and it would die. But if it gets through both suspensions, we'll vote on it tonight on second reading. So while normally we have introduction, first reading, second reading, tonight we'll have all of that in one evening. So, all right, do I have a motion for first reading?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dine. Any discussion on resolution 1901? Seeing none, roll call, first reading.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Nay.
Bates.
Nay.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
And Foster.
Aye.
Resolution 1901 passes first reading 7-2. Do I have a motion for suspension of the rules through second reading?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dine. Any discussion on suspension through second reading? Seeing none, roll call on suspension.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper. Aye. Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
And Gibson.
Aye.
Rules are suspended through second reading and voted 9-0. Do I have a motion on second reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lexi, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion on or resolution 1901 second reading? Seeing none, roll call, resolution 1901 second reading.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Nay.
Bates.
Nay.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
And Hopper. Oh, excuse me, I already have Hopper.
Aye again.
Then
Let me get you counted twice. Resolution 1901 passes second reading 7-0. Miscellaneous business from the council.
7-2.
7-2. What did I say?
You said 7-0, really?
Oh, 7-2. I tried. 7-2.
I confused.
I got it 7-2 here. All right. I believe that's all. Any miscellaneous business from the council?
I do have one. Back in October, the BZA approved a variance for a car wash in the Kroger parking lot, essentially at Smoky Road and 135. Part of the reasoning was that our language is somewhat ambiguous on our overlay district. So I'd like to clear that up if we could, to make it clear that we don't want car washes in the overlay district. So if we could bring that before the planning commission, right, first. Sean?
Yes, it's a text amendment. We will look at that.
Anything else from the council? All right, this is the second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council concerning items that are not on the agenda. So if you're here tonight and would like to address the council at this time, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, other miscellaneous business, Corporation Council.
We do have a few more conflict of interest to accept into the record at a public meeting, so they may be filed with the state. We have Annette Dickey, Park and Recreation, Freedom Springs, for her son Leighton Dickey, for any interest she may have in his earnings as a city employee at the Parks Department. James Gregory Eisen, Deputy Chief, Greenwood Police Department, for his spouse Mindy Sue Eisen, for any interest he may have in her earnings as a city employee with the Probation Department. Sherry Brown, Zilba Aerobics Instructor, for her husband Brian Johns, for any interest she has in his earnings as a Greenwood firefighter, EMTA. Kevin Steinmetz, Capital Project Manager, for his wife Cora Steinmetz, for any interest he has in her earnings as a board member of the Board of Aviation Commission.
All right, do I have a motion to accept these?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Bates, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexi. All in favor of accepting these, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign? They are accepted.
We also have a CF1 for Mays Chemical Company to act on.
All right, any questions about the CF1 for Mays Chemical?
Are they on time this year?
Yes,
Seems
I
like
believe
they're always late, right?
They have made it timely this year.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Finding substantial compliance.
We have a motion to find Mace Chemical Company in substantial compliance. Do I have a second? Motion by Mr. Bates, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexi. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign? They are found in substantial compliance
That's all we have.
For another year.
for another year. Anything from the Controller's office? Anything from the Mayor's office?
Nothing from the mayor's office.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
You got this.